Hey, thank you all so much for joining another episode of Celeste the Therapist podcast. I have a special guest who's from the best city in the world. I'm going to have you introduce yourself to my audience.
My name is Eric Anderson. Born and raised in Boston.
Whoop,
Director of
whoop.
Communications for Transformational Prison Project.
Yes, thank you for having me. Thank you for being here. And for people who've been following the podcast, he actually works with Armand Coleman, who was on episode 362. So you can learn about that. But today we're going to learn about Eric and just kind of like learn his story. You know, one thing, the reason why I started this podcast is because I feel like we go through life alone. And a lot of times things have happened over the years and we don't know how to navigate it. And there's something powerful when you hear somebody's story and you be like, oh, wow, that's how you navigated it. Or I'm not alone. It does something to your system. So I would love for people to learn from your story. So, like Eric said, you were born and raised in Boston. What did life look like for you growing up?
Life for me growing up was being split between two realities. One living in a house with my mom and my stepfather, but also in search of my father, but not really having a view of where he was at. Because I didn't get necessarily that sad story that he went to prison or that he was went to school or anything. Excuse me, I went to school, I went to college, anything like that. For my mom, it was an escape, escape from a relationship. So for her, she just cut it loose. And for me, that was kind of rough for my young brain.
How old were you when your dad went to prison?
Four.
You were 4. So do you remember him prior to him going to prison?
Yes. For me, those memories come living on Common Park, down the academies. I remember the wrestling belts, even the smell.
Oh, wow. So there was a lot of memories. And then one day he was there and another day he wasn't. But it's not like somebody sat with you and said, hey, this is what's going on.
No.
When you look back at that and you're able to identify that you have been searching for that like father figure over the years. Okay.
Definitely.
Now, your dad goes to jail, right? And so anybody who knows anything about the ACE scores, they talk about like people who may struggle later in life. One of those things is somebody who has a parent that's been incarcerated.
Loss of that. I find that in the loss of destruction of community. Actually, we just read that this weekend on my face group. Dealing
Mm,
with from the book The Teens Who Hurt by Dr. Ken Hardy.
hmm.
Just really speaking about the different levels of community and how it really affects the
Yeah,
juvenile and adolescent brain of being losing different parts of your community.
yeah. And so now when your dad leaves, now your mom is a single mom. And what does life look like for you after he's away?
She wasn't single for long. My stepfather probably come around probably 6 months or so, a year or so, and this my mom was probably over my father at this point,
Yeah.
due to their relationship.
Yeah.
So for her, it's just a moment of escape, him going away. She had 4 children by that time, and it was probably in their mid to lower 20s. So for me, it was dealing with a mom that already had a very bad upbringing. Her bringing a man in that has some of the same bad upbringing, and then both really
Mm,
not really dealing with their traumas and self medicating,
mm,
which left that void in the household. Eventually have 2 more brothers coming into the house. So by 9 years old, the house is crowded. My mom, has a lot on her plate. My stepfather's the primary worker, so he has a lot on his plate. Then
yeah.
dealing with his own demons. That's
Yeah.
an open door.
Yeah. And as Eric's talking about this, because he does it, we'll find out what he does at the end. He does a lot of work. But when he looks back, he's able to identify that. But during the time, it's not like he's articulating things in this way. Things are happening. No one's talking. There's substance use going on. There's 2 people together struggling with their own traumas, but it's not like they consciously recognize it, right? Especially in our community, it's not something it's like struggle is what we know, and that's just life. We don't recognize any other way to life. And so now being a 9-year-old kid, right? I want to like a kid because a lot of times 9-year-old boys are looked at as more adults than a kid.
That's how I felt.
Um,
That's
yeah,
what
yeah.
honestly, like if I think like because before 9, going back to my mom, I was in part of DSS for a while and living mainly with my grandmother for a little bit. And my grandmother, I'll never forget her words. My grandmother taught me everything from sewing to how to
Wow.
garden, take care of the children, how to clean the house, everything. And she would always tell me, "I'm gonna teach you how to be able to take care of yourself, so you never need nobody." And
Hmm.
she meant that. And I always took that to heart. Like I'm very self-efficient. You know, take care of a lot in my home. Try to
Hmm.
support my wife in that manner.
Hmm.
As both being full-time workers. So
Hmm.
trying to play my part too.
Hmm.
But it's something that I learned early on from my grandmother. How to do that. Especially being one of six. The second oldest. Having 4 younger siblings.
Got it. So you were not only does society look at you that way, but we know like in black homes where we both have to work, both parents usually have to work and provide and struggle. Like the kids, unfortunately, end up taking on some of the roles of the parenting part.
Yep.
Um, and so like part of your life was spent in DCF,
Yeah, DCF or
and then
DSS back then.
so Boston, it's crazy because when I tell people I'm from Boston, they be like, "Black people live in Boston." I'm like, yeah, we live in Boston, but we have like hood parts.
Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan, a little bit of
Right.
JP.
Yeah, like we have a lot of like hood parts. That's all I knew. I didn't know like the other parts like that, right? Um, Now you're 9, 10, like you're growing up, and so with your mom having 4 younger siblings, probably not a lot of time to like connect with you, and you probably were left to your own a lot, I'm sure.
Mhm.
And what was that like for you as far as like trying to build community?
For me, it left it kind of strange because even like in school, I probably into special ed in the 3rd grade, so classroom was small, wasn't necessary. Like I literally can name all the kids I was in class with from 4th to 8th grade,
Mhm.
because we went from the Sour Greenwood to the Lunenburg together.
Mhm.
And one of them, being one of my best friends, older brother. So it's like, it wasn't much room out there, and most of us, all the kids I would name in those classes, if I looked them up on Facebook, a lot of them are living difficult lives. There's a couple of us success stories, but we all was in the same situation growing up. Most
Mhm.
of the houses I went to was in the same pit. So I found community with a lot of individuals that were going through the same pain as me, looking for the same outlet. Like my mom was always known, and God rest her soul. I did lose her actually just a couple weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
So but my mom, and like, I'm saying, like seeing people comment and speak about her. My mom was really known in the community as that mom that opened her door. Because
Yeah.
for her, and her words was, she'd rather here than somewhere else.
Yeah.
Which I know is a backwards way of thinking
I
of
get
things. I
it.
know that now.
Yeah.
But as a kid, we oh, mom's cool. You know what I mean? But my mom was always that individual that, if I used to, my cousins, I used to hate this actually. I'm gonna be honest. Me and my brother would get $20. A cousin to come over. We gotta break those 20 so cousin got some money in his pocket too. And moms will make us do it. So
Oh,
like
wow. She
that
was
was,
very giving.
yeah. So out in the community, she really had that.
And she was giving from an empty cup herself, but gave like what she had.
To
And
the
that's a
end.
lot. Yeah. And that's a lot of what, when we look back and think about some of these people in the community, that's what happened. They were just surviving, and then we learned how to survive as well, which is can be challenging. Um, and one of the things about the struggle is community. And so, at 13, tell people about what you decided to do at 13.
For me at 13 was being with a group of individuals that I met in my neighborhood. I lived around the Fabian Street part of Dorchester, right near Franklin Field. And kids I went to the Lunenburg with, we all banded together and started our own neighborhood.
Mm.
Where gave us some safety, gave us some camaraderie. Ironically, when we first started, we were more Chez Vous kids, Club 61, partying and hanging out. But in that life eventually ends into boom. I always hope like I went from panhandling to get into the VU to committing robberies to stay going to the VU and the parties because I couldn't get enough money to do it on my own. From my mom. There wasn't that. And even at 14, when I remember trying for the red shirts, they ended that back in 2000. That
Mhm.
was done that year. So for me, it was like, what else are there left to do? I didn't think I was going to get city here, and I would think I was a little
Mhm.
bit too young for city at that point. So it was like
Mhm.
red shirts was all we had. So it was kind of at that point, and I think this was that really tough era for a lot of the DYS kids, because
Mhm.
like I'll end up committed to DYS at the age of 21, even getting a suspended adult sentence above my head, at the age of 16. Eventually doing that adult sentence at 17. And I always said for me, my community became prison, became those in the streets. As I went in and out of prison, those I dealt with in the streets is those I met in prison or met throughout DYS, like Bobby that's on our staff, one of my co-directors. Him, I met his whole entire neighborhood in DYS before I ever met
Mhm.
him. So meeting him
Mhm.
was like, okay, we can talk about everything and everybody because I know all your friends. He's
Wow.
from Revere. He's from that area. I'm from Boston. But DYS at that point was so much kids in there from the Suffolk County area in the metro region. We all knew each other.
And
We all
that was y'all building community, even though it was a and one thing I just want to say for people, the red shirts was because you're naming all these things. I went to Lewenberg, I did the red shirts. But the red shirts was the city of Boston had a program where we can work and get paid. So it did provide like a safe haven. Like a lot of these programs, it's not by accident they snatch up the money for a lot of these programs. A lot of these programs help kept us off the streets and kept us engaged and helped us see like another avenue to life when a lot of times we weren't really exposed to it. And so what Eric is sharing is kind of that time frame. And again, this is him looking back. It's not like he's in hindsight talking about this a lot, over the years he's learned and his trajectory and how he ended up where he ended up. But a lot of these programs and things that are in your community, they are so beneficial for kids, especially when they may not have the means to get it anywhere else, right? And one of the things that he just shared is that he spent some time um, away. And that was due to just ongoing um, things that you were doing in the community.
Mhm.
Um, do you remember having anybody that sticks out that tried to like kind of guide you in any way? Or do you feel like there wasn't that person or that thing?
always say like my life path is kind of strange, honestly. For a
Mhm.
kid that spent 15 years incarcerated before 31. I
That's a
did
lot.
graduate high school. I went to Madison Park. I did probably like 6 months in a culinary program. I said my grandmother taught me how to cook and she taught me good.
Oh,
I went to Madison Park. So even I ended up getting like a high school diploma program in South Bay. Ended up finishing it when they still had their Harriet Tubman House.
okay, yep.
Finishing it there. With a woman by the name of Kelly Best. So I got my high school diploma. Then I applied for the School of Culinary Arts from the Cordon Bleu and got in. So right before my last sentence, I actually did about 2 months of culinary school. Um, and then after that, I said I would end up being arrested and serving just under 10 years.
Do you feel like when you think about because you the culinary school and your grandmother teaching you all of these things, but do you feel like you didn't have enough community to help you stay on that same track? Like it's like your foot was in and out at some point.
For me, it was like looking back on it now, it was really a taught a way of life taught. For me, I took a
Mhm.
lot of ways of life young. I meant when I said at 14 years old that I would die for my hood no matter what until the day I die.
Oh, you would say
So
that.
it took me, years to be able to let go of that belief. It took me
Yeah.
years to not feel like letting go of that would cause harm or do something crazy in my life, that I wouldn't know how to live. Like I lived nothing but the streets. I
That's all
when
you know.
when incarcerated, I didn't get communication from family and DYS and county. As I went into the state system, and you can pay for your phone calls, and it's a little bit cheaper. And my father would come into my life throughout my adult incarcerations. He would take care of me a little bit more throughout my adult incarceration. But my first incarceration before 21, I did those bids by myself. So for me, it was just going in there, becoming more colder, more madder at the streets. Coming home to a new beef, new fights, fight after fight inside. So now I'm making a face for myself. So I'm feeling unsafe in the streets. I'm carrying guns. My
Okay.
I caught 9 indictments as a juvenile. My first adult arrest at 17 was a pistol charge. My second adult arrest was distribution of crack cocaine. Me getting money, trying to make a life for myself, not per
Right.
se in the streets. My next adult arrest, I think a knife, then another distribution charge that I beat. I think I caught another distribution I lost. Then I went away for I think I went away for a distribution or something like that. Then
When
I caught
you
a
when
robbery
you would
charge.
get the last sentence you I know you didn't serve the full 15, but you got sentenced to 15, right? Years.
15,
When
16 in
they
total. 15 men, one from and after in the county for some strange reason.
when they named that, were you because I feel like sometimes when people are institutionalized, it's just kind of like nonchalant. Or do you remember thinking like anything other than okay, this is just where I'm going? Because sometimes people identify actually feeling safer because they know what they're gonna get in jail as opposed to being in the streets. What do you remember about that time?
In DYS, I learned that fighting wasn't nothing. In South Bay, I learned that fighting grown men ain't equal nothing. I don't care how 17, 18, I don't care how old you are. We fighting, we gonna get it cracking. I learned that in South Bay Gladiator School, South Bay Nashville Street. Getting sentenced,
Wait, sorry. So, Eric's South Bay and Nashua Street are places people typically go for holding. It's not a long-term place. People are what, 2 years or less.
yeah, 2 years or less.
Yeah. So, those two places are where he is talking about, where he learned how to fight. So it was when he says it's nothing for somebody that is born and raised kind of in the streets. It was probably like kind of similar.
I
Now,
mean, it
go
was
ahead.
scary to start, but once you get there, like I was in juvenile, I was scared to go to South Bay. But once I
Uh,
got to National Street, South Bay, it's like okay, couple scratches, just avoid the face, duck and dodge. I'm being, just being
yeah.
honest.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
involved in it. I can't, though I may not want to fight, I have people swinging on me, people saying that we gotta go. Oh, trying to check. Like it's to the point. It's literally, when I say South Bay, National Street was probably like 6 units split for the whole Boston. South Bay was 4 main units, and they sent you to one intake unit. So no,
Yeah.
if you was a gang member, unless you was lucky, it was bound to fight. No, fight every person you had beef with coming through that system. You was gonna run
Damn.
into them some type of way. So just
And
get ready and get comfortable.
was that to keep a name for yourself? Like, did you have to make sure you did what you needed to do because of that?
Um, Partly that, partly and I think that even came out, took me, even what took me so long to lead the streets, even as I got older, and to really just lead that life, let life alone. Because even in the state system, when I really in the max, when I really started to feel like I can't do this, I'm probably 25-ish and 26, really just trying to figure out what life is like. About 10 years left at this point. What this next 10 years, what this ending life is going to be like. I knew I didn't want to leave the streets, but I'm a man. That's what I would
Mm,
tell myself. I'm a man. You
yeah.
walk up to me, you tell me you want to fight. I can tell you whatever I want. I'm not repping this no more. But if you say still you're mad because of what I did in the past, I always said I'm going to fight. I'm not going to go to the CEO and tell him he wants to fight me. I'm not going to leave the unit. We're going to leave it together.
Okay.
So that was my thought, honestly, in more in taking it. But being sentenced, um, I honestly thought I would get more, if I'm being honest, because of my
Okay.
trial and my charge. I studied law, so me looking at case law, mass law, and robbery, it was smoking 20, 30 years. Even when I got sentenced, I never forget that shit. Excuse my friend, sorry.
It's okay.
Spurlock asked the DA was like 15 years. That's the minimum mandatory I can possibly get. The judge was like, you know, that's a minimum mandatory, right? I'm looking at him like, was he you want him to ask for more? But I told my mom I would get 30 years. I thought because I was getting found guilty of armed career criminal and armed mass robbery, which they can do that if
You
they
said
want.
armed career criminals because basically you've been in and out of jail most of your
Yeah.
life by that point. Okay.
I was I was indicted underneath 5 predicates as an armed career criminal. 3 of them, I believe, being a juvenile predicates, 2 being adult. I'll be found guilty underneath 2 juvenile predicates and 1 adult predicate. And I'll be that's the 15-year mandatory sentence came off the armed career criminal charge because in accident I was actually charged with sentenced to 15 for that, 15 for the robbery, 5 for the
Mhm.
gun, 5 for this. It all ran concurrent. Then 1 year for some. I think the ammunition ran from and after, so I would have to wrap up the adult bid and go. I mean the upstate bid and go to the Bay for a year. Was my original sentence.
So after the judge said, you know, this is a minimum thing, what did the DA say?
I can't remember his
Okay.
comment, but I want to say he was like nonchalant, like, yeah, that's what we asking for. Um, Honestly, I think because I only thing I always felt at that time, I had got offered 10 years. They had gave my Cody 5. And I remember my lawyer saying to him, like, why don't you offer this kid less? But I'm very like forward and direct. And even in this past life, that forward and direct was disrespectful.
Hmm.
And I would be that way in those courtrooms. So this district attorney probably had a dislike for me personally, probably not unwarranted at
Yeah.
this time, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I think for him it was just probably like he didn't want to give me the deal. So he felt he didn't want to. I'm hoping that's what he felt. I never talked to him always, you know what I mean? But I know throughout the years that I probably ticked him off even more with time, filing appeals on him. So
Oh, okay. This is the longest bid you've done now at this point. And so you're mentally like getting yourself settled to kind of be locked up.
when I yeah, you can
Oh,
say that.
is that not correct? Tell me what you're thinking because I don't want to
When
put words
I
in your mouth.
if I'm honest, when I lost trial, like and always and something that sat with me, just listening to like watching courts on TV and they'd be like, he was emotionless. When I lost trial, I was stone faced for a reason. Why am I gonna show my weakness? Why am I gonna show you that you just broke me?
Hmm.
When I sat down, I put my head down on the table and I cried like a baby. And
Yeah.
that's just to be honest. But I always tell people when I won a trial not too long before that case, I cried as soon as they said not guilty because I was relieved.
Yeah.
And that's just something that always stuck with me. Like, just listening to court and I always want to say that to people. Like, don't think a person doesn't feel emotion. Most of you guys just got sentenced to 15 years. Like, what am I supposed to do? Show you broke me?
Right, 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 right.
And at
That's
this point, I can't be broken. I gotta muscle up and get upstate and survive that now. So
right, right. Now even though you even throughout the times you were locked up, you spent a lot of time in solitary again fighting, right? Fighting was like
mhm.
the thing. And then one of the things that happened because of all of your fighting that you did, you said that they had to separate you and put you in another space.
Mhm.
Tell people
So
about that transition, what that was like for you.
due to my neighborhood being small, they moved us down to low security and out of the maximum security prison. Really not in due to us having enemies in all the other minimum security prisons, we was kind
Mhm.
of only able to go to Norfolk prison.
Mhm.
Due to all the different fights we was involved in. And for me, that would be me being introduced to restorative justice because I didn't come down there. This is the only prison that had this at this point in time. So I know if I went anywhere else, if I stayed in the max, I would have never got to witness what I witnessed. But I'll go down there 2013. For me, for me, overall, Norfolk Prison was just a different beast.
Okay.
The way that the community offered, always like to say it's like it was kind of like I used to watch a lot of high school movies, stuff like that, just killing time. You ever think about how you got the golf people, the athletes, the
Mhm.
geeks, the tough guys? Norfolk Prison's kind of like that, where you can find a clique. You can find Muslims, Buddhists, um, people that do ancestry, basketball players, baseball players. Like you can find that anywhere. Gamblers inside the prison. So being there, it had a more of a balance of different
Okay.
than just good and bad. Like the
Okay.
maximum security, where it was just you just bad or you was better. Honestly, it seemed like
Dang,
the maximum
yeah.
security. It wasn't too much any good coming out that place.
Can you tell people what restorative justice means? Because you said so 2013 you go to a lesser secure place, but it's not just about being behind bars, but it's what happened behind bars that helped shift your trajectory in life.
So restorative justice, for me, and that's how I was introduced to it as restorative justice because it was in the prison setting. Um, it was introduced to the prison due to a riot that happened there in Norfolk Prison. And actually, a young man that I grew up around was actually almost killed in the prison. And older individuals trying to find a way to equal the violence. You know, we had they felt at that time, I should say, there was programming for people for nonviolence. There was programming for people that had drug abuse, but there wasn't program for people or for the people in the streets that we live violence. Violence equal strength. Violence equal
Yeah.
power. Violence equals safety.
Yeah.
So, trying to find ways of that, they found restorative justice or restorative practices. I honestly like to say more now. Because to me, it's beyond just something that can change and format the criminal justice system. It's something that
Mhm.
actually been able to build community. And I think I
Yeah.
probably got more community out of anything. I didn't overturn my case. I overturned my case. I didn't come home off restorative justice, so that didn't play a part for me. It was
Mhm.
really me being able to build community. Because, like I
Wow.
said, in the maximum security, I knew I didn't want to be involved in the streets. I just didn't know how to let go of that loyalty. I
Yeah.
didn't, even letting go of the loyalty. I didn't know what my life looked like coming home. I
Right.
know I'm leaving all these people to the side because I don't want to be dealt in that lifestyle no more. So, who are my friends? Now I know I'm feeling friendless. I'm feeling less community. Even
Mhm.
now, leaving the streets. So for me, restorative justice was one just an eye opener, and for me it was my first retreat, being able to be introduced to one I'm gonna say like one part. It was two major parts. One part being able to witness lifers. And I say individuals that are 20, 30 years in that at this point, knowing appeals, they'll exhaust their appeal remedies. They're looking for Route 30. So seeing them up there apologizing for their actions, knowing that they're not apologizing to the actual victim or the survivors in their case, they're doing this for them. They're doing this to
Yeah.
find their healing. Because
Yeah.
a lot of them, I hope they all come home, but at this point, we watch men dying there. It's them making amends for themselves. So being able
Yeah.
to watch them shed tears and do that, but really witnessing a mom and father share their story and really touch close home to my neighborhood. Him losing their child, losing their son in my neighborhood due to them being thinking that he was a part of that. And for
Mhm.
me, just having some knowledge of that situation, that I felt that um I shouldn't have. I wanted, the fact that I know why that war started, the fact that I participated in that war, the
Right.
fact I never tried to stop it.
Right.
So for me, it's like I could have stopped your son's death.
Right.
I hold that responsibility.
Right.
So I would be able to apologize in the coming year to them. And for me, I never like, I didn't know what to think of what I'll get out that apology. It's something I wrote, so I thought it through, thought it out. Um, but after reading it, I definitely didn't think I'll get forgiveness back. I didn't think I'll get a hug. I didn't think I'll get that empathy. I didn't think I'll
Yeah.
get that value. I thought, maybe a dirty look, some shame. Even leaving that building and going back to the unit at night, hearing individuals, "Yo, E, good job. Yo, that was great, E." Just hearing it from my peers and older individuals from the streets that, before I'd have thought that had got me clout.
Oh,
You
okay.
know, I'd have thought that would have got me looked at in a bad way. Not celebrated, So I didn't get the shame or the embarrassment or
Yeah.
the guilty feelings that came with accountability. Something that, at this point, I probably don't even know what the word
Mhm.
accountability
Right, right,
means.
right.
But the feeling. But for me,
Yeah.
that was like that dive to start doing the program. And I would do their 8-week reading group, do their 34-week Vogue group. and eventually become the one of the coordinators of the Young Men Evolutions group, along with Bobby and Noble and Amon as our um senior advisor due to the group we're in from 18 to 30.
Mhm.
Us all being in our mid to like right above mid 20s at this point
Mhm.
in time. So, just playing that leadership role, but it made a way where, I met Bobby 2007. I know Noble 2013. We started all hood together. You know, I met Amon in 2010 when I first hit maximum security. So I met them all in essence their bad light.
Mhm.
We all entered the prison different, but we got involved in it together in essence. Different points, but all
Yeah.
within that tight span and all involved in the youth work. So it really was just building that. I got deep into the work, and took some leadership roles. Myself even doing other things in the prison. Always wanted to be a father. So there was Matt Bone, who did the Young Fathers group, was like, "Yo, you want to help out?" Became the secretary, then became president, vice president of it. Didn't have a
Wow.
child. But for me, it was to me like it's not about. I can't teach you about raising a child, right?
Right, right, right.
But and for me, like building community storytelling is being able to grab wisdom. Like
Mhm.
in our restorative justice circles, we like to use a talking piece, or on Zoom we use a listen and chat. But like to use a talking piece. Like for me, like talking pieces, giving that person that's holding it the honor to be able to be heard. For me, I think the person listening gets so much more. Because
Mhm.
like I can say one thing and that's all I can hear. But if I
Mhm.
listen to 14 different people, I get
Mhm.
so many stories, so many lessons out of that.
Yeah.
So to me, Young Fathers was like, I'm just gonna answer questions that I want answers to. And I'm gonna get
Yeah.
all guys' stories that they can learn from, I can learn from. So that's how I feel like I can do this group. I did activities committee. I have a strong belief in the roster community, in the roster faith. So I really took that on,
Mhm.
following that and taking on some leadership roles in the roster community, in Norfolk Prison. So they were doing that, and like Norfolk offered that. It offered you a way to be able to have some type of um to showcase your leadership, for
Yeah.
lack of better wording. So gave me a lane.
That's really powerful. It sounds like you were able to feel when you were back when you had those groups, you were able to actually feel your emotions. Also, one of the things that's important to point out, you started as this gang at 13. It already showed your leadership. When kids are doing things and acting out and I tell parents to like be mindful on what you frame things as, like, because you were always a leader, but you just never had the right guidance to allow you to provide a leadership role that actually benefited you and life and all of that. Because for you to just like jump into uh this system in Norfolk and like take control in that way says a lot about your personality and your purpose. Sounds like it's to lead. Do you see that when you look back at things?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think we say it. If we had some of the same people to talk to as younger, we would have made different decisions.
Yeah.
Like even looking back, like the work I'm doing now with Department of Youth Services. Ironically, I get to talk and communicate with my DYS caseworker.
Wow.
And it's a
Wow.
woman that I can be honest that always gave me positive.
Wow.
She's stern, so she never let anything slide. So she
Yeah.
only, like for me, not many people in my life, even if they didn't push me in the wrong, they'll turn their eyes. So community
Right.
was aiding it in essence.
Right.
She's one of those people. So even in the cooking world, so being able to work for her now, is like it's incredible. To be able to
Wow.
go back into DYS, do this work now with most of the staff. I always say like a lot of top staff now. I feel like I know them all because they were all regular staff when I was there. So
Wow. And it's probably rewarding to see you like do what you do now, like for you to change your life. Because I always say if we're still breathing, there's room for change. I don't care how old we are. I really truly believe that. This was really
yes.
powerful. Tell people about what you're doing now with the Transformation Prison Project, because you're doing a lot of things behind the scenes.
So with the transformational prison project, I like to say like my focus and my focus out of the organization, out of us four directors is building that community. So I run the communications. Just trying to be that voice, trying to highlight how we was able to build community. So like on our social media, we do a weekly check-in and a
Mm-hmm.
weekly checkout, trying to highlight different stories from individuals. The same as I said, like creating that lane where I can get 15 different stories. Creating that
Yeah.
lane where I can get 15 different ideas, not just going to check in. So, what are you doing in your hot days? Oh, Dane said you want to go fishing. I may not think fishing today, but reading that may send me fishing off from the neighborhood where I may be hanging out.
Yeah.
Give me
Yeah.
that escape or that checkout just to see how you feel. And in myself operating, I try to be very active. Definitely loving it, communicating and with everyone on the social media. So just really trying to build that community. Also lead our training and stuff. So just trying to, help individuals coming from behind the wall be able to be circle keepers, be able to earn a living like we have been able to do this work.
Right.
So really creating that lane for reentry, but really just enjoying creating a restorative justice world for my community and
That's
for
dope.
with my brothers. I think this is needed in our community. I
Yeah.
think in the black community we all know we shun against therapy. We shun against
Yeah.
talking. We
Yeah.
have that strong stigma of not communicating. But for me, I think I'm a strong believer that if you find good in something, you share it. And when you
Mm-hmm.
find real good at it, you share it in abundance. So for me, this is
Yes.
like been a blessing. So I just want to give it to the world. I
Wow.
want everyone to have
Dope.
this community. Like I've been wanting to be a cook all my life. It took me to meet someone 5 months or 6 months before coming home to get my first official cook job out here.
Wow.
And it's like it took me to restorative justice. Like I think that's what the heart of it gave me inside, outside of being able to help me find that empathy, that value, that on my value, find accountability and find a
Mm-hmm.
healing.
Mm-hmm.
It gave me the sense of I wasn't banished no more. Like that, I felt like when I was sentenced, I had a scarlet letter. Like I didn't have no community no more. Like you're not part of the community. I'm returning citizen when I come home. Even like
Right.
I'm trying to coin the phrase returning community member. Only thing I did was leave for a little bit. Say I went on
Yeah.
vacation. We're gonna
Yeah.
use that again.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah. Yeah.
returning
Yeah.
back to community. But
Yeah.
having those retreats, we used to invite so many people in from the community that it added that back. Being able to go to low security and actually, walk the beaches, coming from restorative justice, I would ask people questions. I became
Mm.
comfortable, kind of not caring, kind of having that cockiness from
Mhm.
the streets. I was still left in me a little bit, talking when the CEOs are telling you not to. But it helped me build that community, gave me that currently. And honestly, I always give the respect to Revere Beach in the early morning walkers out there because they never made us feel like we was locked up. Never made
Wow.
us feel like we was doing anything. They just, we was cleaning their beach, so they only made us feel like we was just doing a good job. So that's
Yeah.
something I always like to shout them out because a lot of respect.
That's dope. Before you go out, we want to know, like, how does Eric take care of himself? You're doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. You've done a lot of reconciliation, really powerful work, and it's not like you healed and you're like, I'm good, but you're really trying to give back and change the narrative for so many people. But what does your like self-care looks like? Because he does do the weekly check-ins and stuff like that, which is super dope. But I would love to hear what it looks like for you.
So I am a father of three now, so that's finding self care between work and thing. I'm gonna have to say I'm blessed to have a beautiful wife. That
Yeah,
is definitely a team player.
that's
So for
dope.
me, self care is being able to take care of my yard, being out there, mowing the yard, riding my tractor. That's fun for
He
me.
brought a house, which is amazing.
So being able to plant, honestly, I still like cleaning. Like that's my time. I blasted music. I grew
Yeah.
up in the households, the Saturday morning music blast, clean
Yep.
everything type of house. So I still do that. That's still my go-to. Like even
Nice.
today, had my son yesterday. So I came back
Yo, when
home
he said he had
yesterday.
his son yesterday, he literally had a kid yesterday. And it wasn't like he had his son with him. He just a baby was just born. Go
Yep.
ahead.
So I've been cleaning. I came back home. I'm cleaning the house up. So I'm cleaning upstairs, vacuuming everything. So he gets everything tidy for him and
Mhm.
straightening it up. I was lucky. My other two children was away at their cousin's house, but they're back today. So trying to finish this tidying up before I go pick my wife and son up tomorrow. Just like for me, that's enjoy playing with my daughter, having them out working in the yard with me. I am a chef by trade, so I love doing cookouts and
Nice.
gatherings. And my
Nice.
wife would tell you, everyone always say, Eric, you came home and lost weight. I don't eat that much. I love to I follow a lot of different principles. I love to eat once a day type of lifestyle.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
So my wife would tell, I'll cook a whole spread. And I mean my jerk chicken, my lobster tails, my shrimp on the
Oh
cob.
snap! You doing it? Okay.
We have some fun cookouts here. Um,
I hope I get invited to the cookout. That sounds
definitely,
like a
definitely,
good cookout.
definitely. And I go a whole cookout and don't eat.
Dang. Okay.
She
Well,
says that to me all the time. Like,
you got a nice self-care routine going. This is dope. I'm grateful for you. And your kids for allowing you to do this. I hear them a little bit, but not a lot. So they was really trying. Any last thing you want to say before we leave? I really appreciate you doing this. You're amazing. Everything about you. There's something powerful about giving back. And you didn't have to, right? So the fact that you're doing this is super dope.
if I could say anything, honestly, always tell individuals, teach to you value the things that they value. Add value to what they love. If it's YouTube, maybe, yeah, don't have to tell them that they can't, that there's a
Right.
possibility they won't blow because there's so many people, or the NBA there's so many people. Let them love their sport. Maybe it is going into coaching to give them fulfillment later on in life. Because I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that so many gym coaches in his life. I'm pretty sure that wasn't their dream at first,
Yeah,
but they
yeah,
find
yeah.
some enjoyment in it. They find
Yeah.
enjoyment teaching the children. So teach them a different path. Maybe coding is their way if they like YouTube. Maybe editing is their way of making a bag while they're still trying to get their YouTube thing. Teach them
Yeah.
other ways. And
Yeah.
to me, that's what we're supposed to learn anyway. You're not supposed to just do one venue. Every rich
Right.
person I know in his life got more
Have
than one job.
multiple streams. We thought I will. They was clowning Soldier Boy. I forgot on what because he was talking about all the stuff he had, but then people was like, "Nah, that's the way you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to have
Yep.
multiple streams of income." We don't know that. We just know a 9 to 5.
Yep. I think it was Marcus Bennett from the Patriots. He did a book sign at Uncle's bookstore, and he said, "Dude had chocolate. He's an
Yeah.
NBA. He's an NFL player. Like
Yeah.
came out with chocolate line. He said, "I tried multiple things. It was his book signing. So it was like he's NFL player. He did his book.
Uh huh.
So it was like, yeah. I was like, that's what you teach the children.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. That's a great way to end it. Thank you. I appreciate you. This is amazing. I know somebody's gonna find some healing out of it.
Thank you.
And I guess I will see you at the cookout.
Definitely.